Hello everybody. I thought this tale I would tell you about the dragons that were drawn to the Dragon Kingdom. Draco, as a Dragon King, the High Dragon King, as a natural affinity, dragon men feel the need to protect dragons. But Draco had no proper raising as a dragon man, so this came out in its own special way. With his brothers and sisters, they quested and they found a few dragons, and those dragons joined them under protection. Now, the elves, from exploiting the road for thousands of years, had amassed huge reservoirs of gold, and all the beauty of the elven kingdom came off the backs of the human and the gold that they mined from their hard labors throughout the centuries. And as we know, dragons love gold most of all. In this gained the Dragon Kingdom its greatest power and allowed it to rise in ascendancy. The great forest in size was at least as large as the continental North America, a huge, vast woodland unimagined in our world, which was wholly ruled by the elves. This soon changed. With the dragons, the orcs, coordinated attacks of human mercenaries that they were able to buy with elven gold from the eastern and the western kingdom, bringing different combat philosophies, each new to the elves and each horribly deadly. And slowly but surely, week after week, month after month, the elves were driven back further into the forest, and the coherent large houses fought, but they could not fight against the dragons. For soon, another dragon joined, and he came into Dragon City all on his own and in a grand gesture. Gothmog the Black. He was black as night, and much like Nightshade, he too had the power of the black poisonous breath. And at night he was able to destroy entire elven settlements with human and orc troops running through and taking out the settlements. And then quickly the dragons would take their booty and move on. Dragons, the one being on the world far, far older than the elves, and they decided that they were going to take their rightful due, and they did it out of the elves. And over the next century, the elves were driven out of the great forest or to its very edges, living a ragged existence and becoming from a great noble people into a feral society, feeding on each other and trying to avoid the orcs and the dragons, because nothing could stop Gothmog the Black. He would attack at night, and he would leave no survivors. Now, the dragons did like to feed, and Draco, not wanting to agitate the eastern and western kingdoms, did not want the dragons to prey upon them for their daily sustenance. They preyed upon the elves wholly. And I shan't say the horrors that happened during this time. Estovarta herself was living in the palace, worrying about her magical studies, training Beechard. She was not involved in this, though she did give a wink and a nod, because she was still angry at her people, but she was completely detached of the realities on the ground. As the elves once did, she became vain of her own power, her own ego. She was a dragon queen despite the fact that she was an elf. Now, she wasn't the high queen. The king was the high lord. But Draco was raised by her, learned magic from her. She always whispered in his ear, and he almost always did whatever she said. But being a dragon man, he too had the lust for gold, and he was more than willing to shed elven blood for it. Now the human kingdoms, of course, reveled in this. The evil elves got their own. Estovarta got the satisfaction of seeing her people that had mocked her to where she exiled herself, brought to their knees. And most of the surviving tribes of elves fled to a large forest into the Western Kingdom where they made their own. And given their tactics, the humans were never able to retake that forest, but it had very little habitation other than a few woodsmen anyway. For at that time, the central area of the West was very, very underpopulated due to plagues of the corresponding centuries before. Now, this is where I'm going to stop it, and we will talk of more things and adventures of the Dragon Kings in Estovarta the next time. Take care, everyone.